Hey everyone, it's John, and I'm here with Terry Johnson from Firearms Legal Protection. And on John's briefs today, we happen to be shooting today in the Wilderness Tactical Products retail store. You guys know they make my belts and my ankle out kit and all that stuff. They let us film here today, so we had some quiet space. And I want to talk today. There's a video that we had on the channel that has gotten a lot of discussion of the legal aspects of when can you use justified force. So I've asked Terry to come and discuss it with us. Today's video is brought to us by the generosity of Firearms Legal Protection. Firearms Legal Protection is a legal defense program for lawful gun owners. You win the fight, and they will help you win the fight after the fight for the rest of your life. There's a link in the description for a coupon code for a discount for all active self-protection watchers. So if you haven't watched the video, put a card so that you can go and see it, right? It's out of Brazil. You see a former corporal in their army, a security police officer who pulls a gun at some kind of argument. We don't know what. And then the guy that he pulled it on took it away from him.
Right.
And then shot him like 8 times.
Right.
And when we were talking a little bit offline, Terry, the first thing that you said was, wait a minute, there's a lot of questions here.
I've got a lot of questions about this.
So what was the first thing that stood out to you?
The first thing, and just so everybody's clear, the guy in the red is our corporal, and the guy in the blue is the other guy.
The other guy.
I don't know why the guy in the red, the corporal, actually pulled out a gun. I mean, I don't know if there were words that were said. Obviously, we don't have the audio.
Right.
But I don't know what caused him to pull a firearm out on someone. And the other thing that really kind of caught my eye on that is how close he was to him. And he was so close, he pulled out a firearm. Not that necessarily he has a duty to retreat, but if you're going to pull a firearm on someone, what do you normally teach? Get some distance.
Distance.
Yeah. So if you look at it, he actually pulls the firearm and kind of goes into the guy.
Yep. So from a tactical perspective, not smart.
Not at all.
Not smart. But now, I think it's interesting. Let's talk just a minute, because you said something about, gosh, we don't have the audio, so we don't have the whole story. So, but from just the video, I'm having a hard time seeing justification to draw a firearm here.
I am as well.
But I think that puts up an interesting point, that video doesn't tell us the whole story.
No, it tells you a piece of the story. Just like if you only had audio, or if you had someone else's perspective of what happened, it's just another piece of the evidence. It's not the full thing, it's just a piece of the pie.
Now, I think, of course, from a jury's perspective, that video is probably a powerful piece of evidence because it gives a perspective that doesn't depend on me interpreting.
Correct. But there's still some things that are out there that we don't know. Again, why? What was said from one end or the other that got someone so angry that they pulled a firearm? Or did this guy threaten him? Did he say, hey, I'm about to cut your throat? We don't know. So There's still some open questions to that point. Why did he pull the gun out?
So I think there's an interesting bit there from a legal perspective, and I'd love your thoughts on this, Terry, because it seems to me then the articulation of that threat really would matter. That how I say, wait a minute, this is why I pulled a firearm, this is why I did that, and to have some objective, reasonable evidence for that is important.
Absolutely, because one of the things you have to keep in mind, we see a jury of your peers, and generally what is a jury of your peers? People that are eligible to vote to live in your county. That's pretty much it.
Peers.
Yeah, they don't go, that whole thing is a chess game, and you have to explain to jurors who may not be pro-gun why you're pulling the gun out. And they may say some things like I just said, well, why didn't you just take a step back? What got you to this point? Is this person a hothead? The person being the corporal? We don't know, because some of those things could come into evidence and be used against you. So again, I don't, in my mind, have a good reason why this corporal pulled a gun on somebody.
So, okay, let's shift to the second part then. Okay, so the guy in blue obviously was able, had some significant skills, and disarmed him, right? So you see him step in, grab a hold of the gun, smack the guy a couple times, kind of turned him over his back, took the gun away from him, and then when he did, puts the gun in his own hand and starts shooting.
Right.
Now, I said in the initial narration that, like, hey, I'll give him the first one, maybe the second one, but you don't even really necessarily like those first two either.
I don't. Anything after second is nothing but a murderous act, in my opinion. And I'll talk about that.
Yeah, let's get there in a minute. But even the first couple, you don't.
The first couple, again, you've already disabled the guy. You've got his gun. He's, what I remember from the video, he's on his back at that point.
Yep.
He's reaching for your I don't want to say dominant, but the hand without the firearm in it at that point, what's the imminent danger of death or great bodily harm at that point? I didn't see it. So the guy's down, and you put two in him at that point. Why? I don't understand.
So, and of course, this is an argument you might make before a jury to say, hey, wait a minute, I still was under this imminent threat because he just pulled a gun on me, and I was just trying to get him off me or whatever. But you're going to have to convince them that was an acceptable thing to do.
Well, again, you've taken the gun.
Okay.
So at that point, where's the imminent threat? Secondly, he's on his back. You've disarmed him. He's on the ground. Where's the imminent threat? So again, I'm just telling you from the way I'm viewing that tape.
Right.
I just don't see it. So like right now, if you were to take my firearm,
yeah,
and I'm threatening you with it, then there's no threat at that point.
Yeah, the deadly threat is past. Now, of course, once the guy rolls over, it's pretty clear in my opinion. Now, I've had some folks say, yeah, but you don't know what else he has on him, so you got to really get after him, and I give him all those shots because you don't know if that guy has another gun, or if he, could come back around and hurt you. What do you think of that argument?
That is a interesting argument, but what if the guy doesn't have one? So let's take it from this point. If I have his firearm and he's down, I'm now in control. Now, if he reaches for something, I could make the argument that he's reaching for another gun, a knife, or something along those lines. At that point, and that point only, another level, or I should say imminent fear comes back.
Right.
But to me, there was no imminent fear of death or great bodily harm, specifically when he put him down and he had the guy's firearm.
Well, and again, so from what I've always been taught, and I want to check this with you, Terry, is that for me to say I don't know what he has means I'm speculating. And correct. I can't use deadly force based on speculation. Only what I have objective, reasonable evidence is happening, not what might happen.
Well, that's where we get to the imminent part, right? He is now doing something to show me that I am in a dangerous position. So if the corporal in red would have reached in his waistband or reached in his pocket or done something along those lines, yeah, you may be speculating at that point, but you could draw an argument to say, well, look, he just had a gun, now he might have a knife. But what I saw in that video, one hand was being held, he's trying to get on,
put the hand down.
There was no imminent danger to the gentleman in blue.
And so, of course, now that happened in Brazil, so their legal system very different than ours.
Absolutely.
But we're talking about, for our American audience, and as a general rule of kind of Western world and law, that says you have to have objective, reasonable evidence of an imminent deadly threat to use deadly force. And if you don't have that, don't shoot. It's that simple. Even if it was a gun you took away from somebody. And of course, that's not, the other side, you don't want to make that kind of argument to a jury. And if you were the guy in blue's attorney, he hires you, how you feel like his case is going to go?
I think it honestly can go either way. Again, we don't have the audio, so guess what? It's my guy's word, what was said, versus someone who wasn't there. The other part about this is, you're saying if I'm defending the guy in blue.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, let me correct that. It's going to be difficult. I would argue some of the same things that you're saying, that, hey, number one, I was still in imminent fear. The objectives, the problem I would have to overcome is once the guy's down, that fear is over. How do I express to the jury that he's still in imminent fear?
Wow. A lot of stuff here. Now we have some other stuff to talk about, and we're going to talk about this in another video, that what is this idea of imminence I think is important, and what is the idea of reasonableness. So hang in there for those. But Terry, I really appreciate the analysis.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.